This is the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS show with Jon Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, everybody? Jon Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS preview show here. We are taking a look at Wednesday's 12-game main slate. James and I, we are recording here Tuesday evening, watching this Tuesday slate. We got the Warriors and Suns currently at halftime. We watched the Lakers and Nuggets play earlier, just a total dismantle by Denver there of the Lakers in that first game to kick off the season. Anthony Davis, 0 points in the second half of that game, while Jokic began his likely MVP campaign with a triple-double to kick off the season. Defending champs take it. Again, watching this Warriors-Suns game at halftime. James, my friend, how are we doing?
What's going on? Interesting opening night. Jokic reigned supreme, and I said it to you earlier. The Nuggets look really good, but let's knock on wood that there's no injuries, because I still questions about the depth. But can't knock them after one game. They look super good. On to Wednesday's big ass slate, and it's a fun. It looks like a fun one. The first big slate of the year.
We have Victor Wembanyama, right? That is the
Wemby season.
Here, so.
Yep. Yeah, Wemby season is in full swing, going up against Dallas, a Dallas team that might be Luka Doncic-less. But a fun slate with Wemby, fun slate with Chet, Scoot, all the top rookies, a lot of the league's top stars in action. So Bart Scott can't wait here, John.
Yeah, 100%. Taking a look at some of these game totals here as well. Some pretty high ones, right? Atlanta, Charlotte kicking off the slate 235.5 with just a 3-point spread. Because remember from last year, pretty much every Charlotte Atlanta game where these two teams were involved was pretty nutty. Just no defense, a lot of points tend to be scored. Washington versus Indiana, 235.5 game total in that one there as well. 237.5 Sacramento, Utah. That game is a barn burner. 1.5 point spread there. Utah, a home dog. Dallas, San Antonio, 230. That game opened at 227, up to 230 here. San Antonio getting 4 as a 4-point home underdog. And then the late night hammer opened at 230. It's down to 227.5. But the Clippers against the Trailblazers, LA giving 9 to Portland here as our late night hammer game of the night. So again, a handful of games up over 230. One game opened at 241. So certainly some targets. We talk about this a lot when it comes to these big slates. There got to be games that you sort of just cross off your list. Detroit, Miami, 219.5 total. 9-point spread in that game. Maybe that's one where you kind of limit your exposure to, just sort of given the other games that we find ourselves looking at on this slate here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, John. Not every game you need tons of pieces of. 219.5 is still a pretty solid total, but
that's not 207 like we were looking at a few years ago, right?
Yeah, it's definitely not the old or the occasional 198 you would get too. In Orlando, Dallas or something a couple years ago.
It was almost any game with Miami, it seemed like.
Yeah, it was
so slow.
It was
Orlando, Miami, Dallas, like you said. It was
Miami.
Miami. No, two slow teams. So.
Yeah, very just plodding down the court. But yeah, in situations like that where you have 4 games over 230, you tend to gravitate to those. And we'll talk about pace throughout the year, and the slow. You'll see pace correlate with a lot of these over-unders as well.
Yeah.
So
what's going to be great is once we get usage stats. Wait till you hear James and I. If you're new to the show, if you're not familiar with the program, wait till you hear James and I just throw usage numbers around like it's our job. So we are a big fan.
Well, it is.
Technically, it is our job. That is factual. So we like to talk a lot about usage and players on and off the floor and the roles that they'll have. Some obviously exciting trends so far already 2 games in on some of the players and rotations we saw. Obviously, it's a kind of a feeling out process. We know how rotations sort of worked during the preseason. We have an idea of who's going to be in or out, but obviously we won't really know how these guys are going to be playing until we see them on the floor. I know certainly tonight in the Lakers-Denver game, we were surprised to see that Cam Reddish come off the bench really early in that game and play the minutes that he did. And then here we are, Golden State and Phoenix, and Moses Moody is every bit Jordan Poole that Jordan Poole was, right? So, great, good to know. We'll keep that in our memory bank for the next time Golden State plays, and we'll truck forward with that information. So, obviously, as we break down this huge slate here, there's a little guesswork. We're going to do our best based off some of the preseason usage here and what we know as confirmed and likely starting lineups. We also have players that we already know are ruled out here, James, as well. Some in injury news that we're going to have. So we'll confirm a lot of that. Obviously, with our DFS playbook, we have a whole injury section in there. Then James and I come back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time. We'll give you all the latest injury news and updates that you guys need to set your lineups. So as we go through this, again, some players are going to be questionable. Some of these players are going to be already ruled out. We'll be able to kind of formulate some plans and ideas there. But no, this is the preview show. This is sort of our first look at this slate for those of you who are tuning in again for the first time. James, before we do kick it off, though, and break down the DraftKings slate, we got to give a shout out to our friends over at rtsports.com. If you go to rtsports.com/alarm, promo code alarm23, new users get a 100% deposit match up to $200 with their first deposit. You can scan that QR code here on the screen. James and I start off every show giving you a few of our favorite player prop pick'em plays for RT Sports to kick off the day. So let's get to that now here, James. Looking at a few props that we've already kind of identified here for our listeners and watchers today. Tyler Hero, 20.5 points at home against Detroit. I know we mentioned this one is one of the lower game totals on the board, but looking at usage, looking at the way this Miami offense tends to run, Hero really is like one of their primary scorers. Butler has these nights where he doesn't really feel like shooting. Bam has some of these nights where he doesn't really get involved offensively. You're going to see Hero, I think, be maybe the leading scorer on this team most nights. So taking the over 20.5 against a bad Detroit team here.
Yeah, and not to mention Butler did not play one single second in the preseason. I know he said he was in good shape, but we don't know what that means going into the year. He could be lagging a little bit behind. We saw someone like Michael Porter on Tuesday. He played 30 minutes when the rest of his team played 34, who participated in preseason. So we'll see what Butler's minutes look like. And guys like Caleb Martin, he was banged up during the preseason, so he only got in one preseason game. Tyler Hero was out there chucking, so he's going to be full force ahead, and he had a couple of big preseason games. So I love that call. Tyrese Halliburton over 2.5 threes. He's chucking, John. Tyrese Halliburton averaged just under 3 made threes a game last year, career high 7 per game.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking about a guy who's expected to take another leap beyond what he did last year. This is a fantasy darling, one of the first 5 picks.
I was going to say, he's a top 5 pick for seasonal fantasy this year. Yep. So many people expecting him to take off this year. And I mean, Washington may be the worst team in basketball. So
yeah, and they're just not going to defend. So, the only thing we could possibly see is him defended by Coulibaly, but I think that would be a little cruel of Washington to put him on Tyrese Halliburton in game number 1. So yeah. I like the Halliburton made threes here.
And then Trae Young was a double-double machine last year. So we're getting Trae here. And again, a game that's going to be one of the highest totals on the board. It's going to be one of the fastest paced games on the board as well. Getting over 9.5 assists for Trae Young here early on, I think, is a good tone center. I can see a double-double coming for Trae in this matchup against Charlotte. So opportunity to 6x your money here over on RT Sports. Again, take advantage of their promo offer today. Go to rtsports.com/alarm. Promo code alarm23 gets those new users there a 100% deposit match up to $200 with their first deposit. That out of the way here, James, let's take a look now. Break it down. The DraftKings main slate is what we're going to be looking at here for Wednesday. 12 games on the board here. Breaking it down position by position, starting off at the point guard spot here. Talking about some of these top end plays and how we decide we're going to approach this position. Luka Doncic, questionable to play against San Antonio here. Big name right off the bat. Questionable to start. So obviously if he is out, Kyrie Irving being $10,200 would become a pretty popular spend up option in this spot. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I know, has been a darling of yours going into this year, up against Chicago here. LaMelo is healthy, at least for now, so $9,900 for him. Trae is $98, and then Halliburton's at $9,100 going up against Washington. If you're breaking down this top tier for point guard, identify how you'd go about building some lineups today.
Yeah, I mean, Luka, I'm probably not going to get to. If he's full systems go, if we have word that he's fine, then Yeah, I mean, San Antonio is obviously going to be different with Wemby, but they're still not expected to be that good of a team. You can get there. I think Chicago is not a great spot for OKC, like to pay up for just because of the pace. Chicago played at a really slow pace last year. Nothing's really changed. They still have Vucevic trying to get up and down the floor. Kobe White is expected to be the starter, but that's not going to suddenly change the way that they play. The two guys that really stood out for me were Trae Young and Tyrese Halliburton here. I 9,100 for Tyrese Halliburton just feels too cheap. You already talked about it. He is in seasonal. He was a top 5 pick, and that's because he's such a multifaceted producer. Like, this is a guy who not only averaged a double-double last year, 4 rebounds, he averaged 2 blocks and steals combined. Like, he makes threes at a really high clip. He shoots free. Like, he does everything well, and he is the centerpiece of this team going up against arguably the worst team in the NBA. So
Right.
I really like Halliburton and Trae Young. You talked about double-double machine. He averaged 26 and 10 last year. Like, this is a guy who's very often disrespected. And I know, he wasn't always great in the regular season, but boy, oh boy, was he great in that postseason series. Right. Maybe this is something that catapults him this year. And again, one of the biggest totals on the board. Charlotte's a bad defensive team that played at a really high pace last year. Expect a lot of possessions.
We talk a lot about LaMelo Ball's foul troubles, right?
Yes.
I mean, could certainly be an issue going up against Trae Young here on opening night. And that's not a shade at LaMelo. I think LaMelo could be this could be a game stack,
right?
For sure. I don't really like what's with the Cunningham price here. $9,000. That feels way too expensive for Cade here for me.
I mean, I like Cade, but I don't disagree that it's a little too pricey, especially versus Miami. I mean, this game is going to be a horrible pace for Detroit. I mean, I kind of like it. Like, I like Cade this year with Monty Williams, the structure of that system. We saw how good Monty was in Phoenix. So, but I no interest in 9K. I mean, you have. Look at the 3 guys right below him. De'Aaron Fox in the best environment. Fred VanVleet, new team, probably leader in the clubhouse for like shots there. And then Jordan Poole, I mean, might have the most ultimate green light in the NBA.
He is going to take 20 shots a game.
I think I would go over.
You would go over.
I would take the over.
I guess technically he did take 15 shots in 20 minutes during the preseason. So.
I would take the over on the. And that was the one from 15. Think about the game before that. He scored 41 points in 3 quarters. He's gonna. I think he might.
I'm trying to think about what kind of player we could compare him to. Like maybe like Monta Ellis from way back in the day.
That's a good one.
Those bad Golden State teams, right?
Harden and a lesser Harden, because Harden could do everything in Houston, but like shot attempt wise, like Harden. But
is Jordan Poole going to give us any other stats than scoring?
Yeah, he'll pass. He's a decent passer.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, he's a decent passer. Okay. Look, he's going to score a lot. He might lead the league in scoring for all we know. Like, he might score 32 points a game on 26 shots a game. And Washington's probably going to be okay with that.
Right. We didn't discuss Donovan Mitchell because he's got dual position eligibility here, but obviously if Garland's out, it will be a play for us here.
Yeah.
Other guys down below 7K. Scotty Barnes, point guard, small forward eligible. We know he's probably going to play more of the small forward than the point guard here. The new sort of coaching and rotation that they have in Toronto. Anthony Simons is going to be a starter here for Portland. Again, no Dame Lillard there anymore. Where are you going in this mid-tier range?
Simons is okay. I mean, forever green light. The only problem is he probably sees Paul George defense here, which isn't great, but that's something. I like Tyler Hero, $6,300. I know we kind of touched on him in the prop game, but he another guy who just has the green light, and Miami does have, I think, question marks offensively. Like, yes, Butler, yes, Bam, but you talked about it. It is 100% true. There are nights where Butler takes off offensively and he's playing more of the passer role or more of a defender role, and same with Bam. And maybe Bam shakes that because he had a really good finals and a really good postseason in general offensively. But Hero is, I think, the guy that, like you said, could lead the team in scoring. Maybe Clarkson, but he's going to come off the bench again. I don't think there's much else in this like upper 6K tier. I think it's like the 5K tier that I would have interest in as you flash Ben Simmons.
What are we doing with Ben Simmons?
Look, man, I tweeted it out like a few weeks ago. Like, I'm ready for the Ben Simmons tour to be recharged, and he looks good. Like, he looked pretty good in the preseason outside of the turnovers, and I think that's fine because he's getting back in things. Like, best time to turn the ball over is the preseason. Like,
I'm still not a believer that he is a good offensive player, no matter how many hype videos they show of him shooting practice jumpers. Like, but I don't need him to be. I just need him to get to the rim. I don't need him to be a jump shooter. I just need him to get to the lane. Can he get a 4-foot layup? Can he get a little bunny? Can he do something like that to score? Because the rebounds and assists and defensive numbers should still all be there for him. So I do like Ben Simmons at 5,900. I'm gonna forever play him at this price, and he'll probably burn me, but I'm gonna keep running him out there.
He also, I will say, like, just to maybe fix your wording a little bit, as not a good offensive player, not a good shooter. Like, he is a good offensive player because he is a really good playmaker specifically.
Well, like, yeah. I was referencing obviously scoring.
The scoring specifically. I know, but like,
he's not a good scorer. So
because he does create, like, I think he's gonna make it really easy for people in Brooklyn, like Bridges and
yeah. Well, that's what I said. I think the rebounds and assists are legit. If we can get him to average 11, 12 points a game,
sure,
like, we'll be cooking. If he goes 12, 6, and 7 every night with like 2 and 2, like, we're there.
I don't know if this is the spot for him, but maybe no Jared Allen, Mobley shifts to the center, like Dean Wade.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I'm just saying, it's a good price.
It is a good price.
You think that Trey Jones starts at point guard with no Zach Collins or no?
Well, Collins not officially out. So if Collins is ruled out, I suspect maybe that's the case where they just go back to Trey Jones is starting, move Wemby down to center, because right now the starting lineup is Sohan as a starting point guard, which is what it is. Probably the biggest lineup in the NBA.
Honestly, when Collins is out there, yeah.
I mean, dude, everyone's 6'7", right? Like, Vassell's 6'7", Keldon Johnson's 6'9". Like, that lineup is gonna be massive. Collins is 6'11", and Wemby's 37 feet tall. So yeah, I mean, if there's no Collins, I'm okay with Trey Jones. I wish he was a little cheaper, knowing that, like, he might not even start, and we're paying $5,900. Like, I'd rather just, like, go down. Dennis Schroeder looked really good in the preseason. Had 11 assists. Toronto didn't lose in the preseason. He had 11 assists in their last game. And
I know you've been all over this, and Schroeder is a favorite play of ours. Generally, when he's starting anyway, it's just a high volume, generally output play. So at $5,300, yeah, I'm in against Minnesota. That's fine. What's the Minnesota point guard defensive situation? Conley. I say Conley a little bit slower these days. I mean, they have Anthony Edwards. I do like Dennis here. That's a good price for him, especially if he continues to play the way he was during the preseason. That number won't last forever. There for sure. Value point guards. Talk to me about some of the guys that we're looking to target here.
Tyus Jones, starting point guard for Washington. I think this game is going to be fun. Like, you don't really say that about a Washington-Indiana game too often, especially on, like, the second night of the NBA. But not a lot of defense played here. Tyus Jones, we saw a really good fantasy producer when there was no Ja Morant for Washington. And maybe there's Ja Morant times 7 with Jordan Poole here, but we're getting a likely 30-minute sample out of Tyus Jones every night here. I like the price, 4,900. I like the matchup. So I would go there. I don't hate Colin Sexton, 48. He's expected to start over Keontae George as the starting point guard. I think Kobe White, 4,600. He looked really good in the preseason. His final preseason game, 20 actual. He's expected to start over Ayo Dosunmu and Alex Caruso. We'll see if that's the way Billy Donovan eventually goes, but the expectation is Kobe White starts, and 4,600 starting point guard. I don't hate that idea. Would you, John? I just have to ask. Would you play Peyton Pritchard $3,900?
Probably not. I don't know where this. I'm going to take the wait and see approach with Boston against the Knicks here. It was a team that gave them a lot of trouble last year, actually. Now, obviously, completely different situation. Zinger and Holiday is there now, and for that reason, I just want to see how it's going to look. I don't really know. I don't know how it's going to look. So Pritchard's definitely going to be more involved this year than he was last year. They've already kind of said that. They paid him to be more involved this year than he was last year. They really need an offensive player off the bench. It's going to be him and Derek White really to spark that offense off the bench, where they have guys like O'Shea Brissett and Lamar Stevens come off on the wings to play a little bit more defensively. So, that's kind of where I'm at going there. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
Okay. I think extend. What's the extend narrative, right? Peyton Pritchard got extended, and now that's the narrative that people are going to take into the season.
Yeah, I guess that could be the spot there. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out there. In this in their rotation, I guess this year. So, anybody else here for point guard?
No.
All right. Shooting guard position, then again, some of these guys have multi-position eligibility. We've discussed, obviously, Kyrie Irving would be a big play for us if Luka Doncic is out. I'm not going to pay 10-2 if Luka's in. I don't know if you feel the same way or not, but it seems like a little bit too rich for me. Ann Edwards is at 96. Paul George at $9,500. Donovan Mitchell, as we mentioned, there's no Darius Garland, would be pretty nice at 94. Jaylen Brown, Jordan Poole, anybody here that we haven't discussed or you want to key on? I
mean, it's Mitchell for me if there's no Garland, because there's also no Jared Allen. So, it's really going to be Mitchell, Mobley, and then, Levert's going to be in there, and we're going to see Max Strus in there, but it's mostly all Mitchell all the time. So, I would, and I could say the same thing for Kyrie, I guess, if there's no Luka. So those two guys, I would say, stand out above the rest. And is fine, but 9,600 is a little pricey.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he broke out at the end of last year, but I'll have to wait and see. Some of these guys' pricing will eventually drop down to where I think they're more digestible totals here.
Agreed.
Mikal Bridges was someone we just plugged and forgot, but it is a Cleveland matchup. Do you think he can continue to be as successful this year as he was last?
Yeah, I think so. They didn't go out and end up getting Dame, which was rumored, and he seemingly is the guy. And I do think the Ben Simmons addition is going to help him offensively. The only thing is, Ben Simmons also takes away everywhere else. So is Mikal Bridges going to do enough? If he has 25 a night, what does the rest of the line look like? We know he's going to get us defensive stats because he's a great defensive player.
Yeah.
But are 2 blocks and steals combined enough on a night where he doesn't give you 30 actual?
He gives you this 23, 2, and 4.
Yeah, it's that. I love Mikal Bridges, and I think he is a great player, and I think he's going to continue to ascend to great heights. But 7,800 for him, great position eligibility. But then you look at Desmond Bane, $400 cheaper, same exact eligibility, and then you think about what is there in Memphis. Mikal Bridges is the number 1 option, sure, no doubt, number 1 option offensively for Brooklyn. Desmond Bane, number 1 option offensively for Memphis, and he does more peripherally.
We didn't mention Marcus Smart. We glanced over him, but we didn't really talk about him.
Didn't really talk about Marcus Smart, right? And I think that's going to obviously maybe cut back from what Bane was doing in the preseason, because he scored the most points per game in the preseason. That was also, that also has a lot to do with playing time and whatnot, but he looked great and he's improved every year. 47, 40, and almost a 90% shooting split last year for Desmond Bane. I love Desmond Bane here for $400 cheaper, and not afraid to scream at the top of my lungs,
Another rule we had last year was Zach LaVine, when he is this cheap, was an auto play for us.
Wasn't it under 8K though? Now we're getting him under 7. I'm fairly certain it was under 8K.
Yeah, under 8K. Yeah, because he was 71 for a while, and I think we were just auto plugging. And
yeah,
I am going to play Zach LaVine at $6,800.
Sure.
Without a doubt, going to play some Zach LaVine here. Has the goated eligibility as we talked, shooting guard, small forward here.
Yep.
That against OKC even. I mean, that's just It feels like a wrong price tag. We talked the same thing about Tyler Hero. Feels pretty cheap. Again, a guy that can score. But definitely both of those guys, they're looking pretty solid. Value and kind of a little bit lower here. Anybody jumping off the page to you? Do you like Ben Mathurin at 54 at all?
Yes, that was exactly where I was going. He's expected to start heading into the year. And we saw the breakout a lot. I mean, we saw it from the jump last year. He was he scored the most points for a rookie in his first 3 games since LeBron, I think it was. And then he really just carried that over, almost 17 a game.
Well, what I loved about him was his free throws. The guy went to the free throw line a ton last year.
450 free throws, huh? That is crazy.
You really don't see that from a rookie.
No, you don't.
You don't see that from most of the league these days.
No.
So, that's like a James Harden level free throw line, right? So, love that he can manufacture his own points when the shot's not dropping by getting to the line. He's $5,400, so he could very well be the number 2 scorer on this Pacers offense this year. They brought in Bruce Brown, but Bruce Brown's not really an offensive first player. So, you still got to deal with, obviously Halliburton there as well. But, I think that there's some pretty good spots for the value on him there. Going down a little bit further, guys that are under $5,000. I think Caleb Martin at 49. We're expecting him to kind of step forward. No Max Strus anymore in Miami. Saw Martin break out during the playoffs. Going to be someone that we should be at least giving some early looks to, even though that game does have the low game total. Talon Horton-Tucker has been a monster during the preseason, was a monster at times last year when guys were out of the lineup. And then Max Strus also now in Cleveland at $4,500. Some good mid-tier plays there, or value tier plays there.
Yeah, I mean, the Strus thing is interesting, especially if Garland doesn't play. What is his role going to look like? We've seen Point Donnie quite a bit in the past, and Point Donnie is really good. And that can really set Strus up well if the shot's falling. THT had a monster preseason. I don't know if he can carry that into the regular season. But if he's going to start, which is what's projected right now for Utah, we saw it all preseason. He's playing alongside Sexton, Markkanen, Collins, and Kessler. 4,500 in maybe the best environment on the board. I think, what did you say, 237.5 in this game? Yeah, 237.5, which it opened at 241. So there's potential this game is bet back up to one of those, a high number. And I'm perfectly fine with THT. The Quentin Grimes thing is interesting because he looked so good when the Knicks sat everyone in the preseason. It's just one of those things where he's going to have nights where he gets 7 shots. And if he makes 6 threes or 5 threes, you're it's going to be a good night. But can you rely on Quentin Grimes to go 5 for 7 from 3 every night? It's hard to.
What I like about him is that they have him supposedly, at least for now, slated to start.
Yes, he is going to start.
And if you're starting on the Knicks lineup, you generally play a whole lot of minutes.
You do. So, it is true. This is a rotation that is super weird because Quickly exists. Brunson is locked into 35 minutes a night, right? Then you have Quickly, who they didn't pick up the option. They signed DiVincenzo to a 4-year, $50 million deal. He can play the 1 through 3.
They have RJ.
They have Hart. They have a lot of guys doing the same exact things. So,
but that's what they did a couple of years ago. They signed 9 power forwards.
Yes, they did. So, I'm not disagreeing with you where, it's Thibodeau and he does typically give his guys a lot of time. And, he does love Quentin Grimes and he, talks about him all the time. It's just, I don't know.
It also may not be the right matchup going in.
Yeah.
Again, we think Boston should be one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. So, and you mentioned that actually they're going to have Derek White in the starting lineup this year. I saw early on they were trying the Horford-Porzingis lineup. Seemingly now Horford's going to be the guy coming off the bench. They're going to have Zinger starting at the 5. So you're going Zinger, Tatum, Brown, White, and Holiday. I mean, that is a very good defensive, Zinger is probably the worst is the worst defensive player on the floor.
Yeah.
But those wings, the perimeter defense is going to be maybe the best in the NBA.
I mean, if Derek White is chasing Quentin Grimes around for 30 minutes, Quentin Grimes not even gonna get shot off. He's not even gonna get a shot off.
Yeah. Yeah. Derek White was what, second team all defense last year?
Dude, he is like, I'm not like entirely like really high on Derek White in fantasy this year, but there's gonna be games where Derek White has like he might lead all guards in block shots.
There was a time in the playoffs last year where Derek White was the best player on the Celtics.
Yeah, he might be. I mean, there's gonna be games where you're like, holy cow, Derek White is the best player on the floor right now.
Yeah. Is Cam Thomas ever gonna play again, or what's the deal? He's gonna
be in the rotation, but like,
is he gonna be Cam Thomas though? 46 actual.
That's I mean. Look, he's going to be in the rotation.
The man's a bucket. So
and I hope one day he gets to. I guess he gets his Jordan Poole moment. Is what I hope.
Seriously, can he go be somewhere? Someone's Jordan Poole. He'll score 40 points a night. Anybody else down here for shooting guard? Anybody you want to discuss?
No.
Alrighty. Small forward position here. Again, JT is at 10-4. Again, I don't really want to pay for any Celtics here. I'm a Celtics fan. I just don't like this matchup against the Knicks, and I want to see how it's all going to play out. Because they do have. It's not as if they add Holiday is not really an offensive player per se, so I'm not really expecting Holiday to steal some shine away. But Porzingis is going to score, so somebody's going to be losing some points here.
Yep.
If Porzingis just absorbs the Marcus Smart shots, then maybe, and the Horford shots, then Tatum can still be a baller here, but I feel like somebody is going to suffer a little bit when it comes to that end. So your guys over 9K are Tatum, Edwards, George, Markkanen, and Kawhi. Kawhi at 92. It's not a bad number.
Against Portland, and he's healthy, right? That's the key, the keys, healthy, check. Portland matchup, check. 9,200 cheaper than Paul George. Paul George has a better, obviously the better position eligibility, but Kawhi is cheaper.
I mean, look at this. There's a lot of slates here where last year he was over 9K, over 10K. I mean, I guess you would worry maybe about the point spread in this one. It's 9, so do they go up too big, and you don't have to worry about Kawhi in the late game here? But again, that's a price I want a part of most nights. $9,200 Kawhi Leonard. Buckets at 88. Any interest?
No.
No. DraftKings, you're slipping.
Yeah, I feel like that's everywhere. They kept the dreads picture.
Nobody wanted, once they realized they were being trolled, nobody wanted to use the emo hair.
I mean, yeah.
DeRozan is $7,100. So all the Chicago Bulls are.
Yeah, he looked terrible in the preseason. All the rumors there's already rumors about him being traded and stuff, and he's already answering questions about it. So I don't know if it's in his head, but
was there a split where he was under 8K last year? A 4-game stretch, he was under $8,000 last year, but that was it.
Yeah, the price tag is
stupid. April. So
yeah, stupid price tag.
71. I mean, he's almost 6K. I mean,
Yeah.
DeRozan and Levine are against OKC.
Yeah.
What did I say the game total in that game was?
228.
Yeah, why not? What are we doing? I love that.
OKC is definitely,
No, they're gonna be good. They're not the OKC of old, 100%. Right? Have Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams in year 2, SGA for sure, Giddey, great. 100% agree with you. But I do think they're gonna still be in some games that are pretty high scoring.
Sure.
We've mentioned Bane already. Levine we've talked about. Scotty Barnes we've talked about. Anybody here in the mid-tier that we haven't discussed, I guess, that are on your radar? I don't know what to do with Brandon Ingram at 77 with Zion back and CJ McCollum, those three being all healthy and together. Ingram was a baller last year, but Zion was out. And we know Zion is a usage monster when he's on the floor.
Yeah, I don't love the mid-tier. Outside of DeRozan, 7,100, you could play Levine here. You could play Barnes, all guys we mentioned. Ben Simmons is small forward eligible. I don't hate a healthy Gordon Hayward at 5,500.
Get him what you can.
He's gonna start. Yeah, he's gonna start over Brandon Miller for the time being. We know obviously Bridges is now away from the team due to the suspension.
Mhm.
Hopefully they keep him away for good. But Hayward 55 is fine. We know Atlanta's not a great defensive team. Denny at 53 is a pretty good price. I just don't know why they're not going to start him. They just extended him, but they didn't start him in the 2 games during preseason. They started Koulibaly. Are they actually going to start Koulibaly, who maybe, I mean, there's a lot of hype around him, and people in Washington are saying, oh, this guy is legit, but like, that's people in Washington haven't actually said many smart things in a long time.
Been a while since they've won it.
It's been a while since they've won anything.
They willingly traded for Russell Westbrook. So.
They did do that. They also gave Bradley Beal, made him the richest player in the NBA, and then traded him away for peanuts.
Yep.
So like, there's a lot of things going on. But if Denny is starting, Denny at 53, he's going to play a big role off the bench. I don't
like Denny.
That.
I do. Denny was a guy that I like playing a lot. Denny was a guy that I liked attacking his rebound props last year too. They just they would have him low, and he had those rebounds where you just grab like 8-9 rebounds. Shaedon Sharpe gonna come off the bench, but you mentioned he was just playing a boatload of minutes during the preseason, so could be a spot where he gets active here for Portland.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that he's not starting. I get why they want to go with Thibault. I think Thibault's more of a placeholder than anything. We saw it last year with Thibault. Like, he just doesn't. He's not going to play.
Not very good.
Yeah, he's not going to play a lot. So I'm fine getting to Sharpe. I'm also interested. Like, Keegan Murray, $4,900 is just. Oh no, that's Chris Murray. I just got duped by. Oh, that's
there's gonna be a lot of players here. Keegan Murray, I think we looked at
probably power forward. He's probably
power forward only. He's $5,100 though. Still fairly pretty cheap. We'll touch on him in a moment. Guys we've discussed already, right? Like,
well, Levert could be a guy, 4,900 if no Garland.
Would you rather Levert or Struss if there's no Garland? If you had to pick one.
I feel like Levert does a little bit more, but like Struss spaces the floor way better.
Sure. Again, we've talked about him. THT Sohan is down here. We talked about a little bit of point guard, small forward eligibility. I always like DeAndre Hunter. They're going to start him in Sadiq Bey, as you mentioned. We'll see how long. We'll see what that rotation looks like. But I've always been a big Hunter stan, just in general. Caleb Martin's here as well. So some guys we touched upon at the small forward spot. Anybody else here for you?
Yeah, I got one more. It's Josh Green, and he's another extended player. Jason Kidd has not given his hand on who the 5th starter is going to be, really, at all. It's Kyrie, it's Luka, and it's Grant Williams, and he hasn't really given word on the other 2 starters because he was starting Derek Lively early in the preseason. Then he went back to Dwight Powell. Josh Green was really, really good in his final preseason game, and he started. I think he's going to start here again. Former first-round pick. If there's no Luka, I would really like this play because Josh Green has shown when one of Kyrie or Green or Luka are off the floor that he's willing to shoot. If Luka plays, I probably don't have as much interest as I would because Josh Green might just stand in the corner for 30 minutes and just wave every so often, like, "Hey guys, I'm open."
Yeah.
Oh no, I gotta go back down that way. Oh, okay.
Yep, I'm with you there. And then you mentioned that the Grizzlies are also starting Zaire Williams, right?
Yep.
As well. And
he should start at small forward for that.
$4,000 down here. Koulibaly's $4,000 as well. So some value small forwards. Again, we'll get a little bit more clarity when we do the live show at 5:00. Hopefully, we'll have some ideas for lineups around that time as well. Power forward position here, James. Talked about Tatum already. Siakam's 10-1, Zion 97. Paulo Banchero, $8,900. We get Towns, and then we have Wembanyama, cover boy of today's show, $8,500. What do you think the rostership is going to be on a 12-game slate for Victor Wembanyama at $8,500?
Oh man, I mean it's a good spot. He's playing against guys that attack the rim, and if you watch Wemby during the preseason, all he did was block shots. Like, I don't think people understand what they're doing. I mean, Chris Paul was standing on his tippy toes to take a picture with him, and he still looked like he was 3 feet shorter than
And you think of the front court that Dallas is throwing out there,
dude. It is
Grant Williams and then Dwight Powell or Live. I mean, none of those players are even close. I mean, only Giannis and Durant are close, but like
Right.
no, there's no shot of Grant Williams
To
or
Grant
Dwight
Williams
Powell defending Wemby here.
and Grant Williams is 6'5", right? Like he's 6'5".
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like
he's strong though.
No, I'm not saying he's not. He is definitely strong, but he's still 6'5". Like, I don't know, man. He's gonna be popular because like you also talk about power forward. Like Tatum, I like Tatum. If you wanted to get there, you could probably make the case for Siakam too. Zion is obviously.
I think there's just going to be so much FOMO on Wemby that
there is going to be
going
FOMO
to
on it.
drive the rostership up.
Also, like you're not paying 89 for. I don't think you're paying 89 for Ben Caro. Maybe you are, but like that's really pricey. Like that's 45 fantasy points, and he could take that leap. I'm not saying he can't, but that's expensive. Towns is interesting at 86, but really tough matchup against a slow-paced team. I think it is FOMO. Oh boy.
He could literally go. I mean, again, we were looking at his numbers in 20 minutes during the preseason. He was going for like 20 and 5 and 3 and 2. Like he's going to play 30 at least.
Yep. I would say if you want me to put a number on it, I'll say in large field tournaments like 20 to 30% somewhere in there. But I think that's like it's a 12-game slate. That's a lot, right? So like 20, somewhere between 20 and 30%.
Cash games 60.
Somewhere 50, 60, yeah. And
honestly, I think we might be low. It's opening.
We might be. We might.
I think people are going to be all over this.
Yeah, he's the most polarizing.
And he's $8,500. We pay $11K for Giannis.
Yes, we do. We do.
You know, $11K for Jokic. I mean, I don't know. We're gonna
$11K for a guy in Jokic who was drafted during a Taco Bell commercial. Yeah. And Wemby is the most polarizing athlete since LeBron. So yeah, maybe you're probably right. But tune back in at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll have that information for you guys.
Yeah, I agree with you there. All right, so Zinger at 72, I think is
really good. Really good price.
He was dominating during the preseason.
Really good price.
You're not paying a premium for him, right? You're paying a premium for Brown. You're paying a premium for Tatum. You're not paying a premium for Kristaps Porzingis here. So I do like Zinger at 72. Love that. All these guys also have power forward center eligibility. That's great. You can fit them in a few different spots. Chet Holmgren, Wembanyama light, in terms of length and size. He's $6,500. Now, he's definitely not the player that Wembanyama is. He's not a big outside scorer, but I mean, like, guy was number 1 overall pick, right? Number 2 overall pick? Number 1? No, number two. Yeah, behind Ben Caro, right? So, like, a lot of talent, a lot of potential, a lot of upside. Fluke injury last year ended his season in the USA game, wherever it was, FIBA. I don't know.
No, he played. No, he was playing in like one of those,
the workout game, right?
A summer league game. Yeah, and like one of those tournaments where
Isaiah Thomas's hometown gym game.
Yeah, something. Yeah, no, like something like that, and he just
So, anyways, he was dunking on LeBron in that game. So, I think Chet Holmgren is pretty interesting going up against Chicago here, $6,500. I've talked a lot of crap about Evan Mobley in the past. But I've also always said, like, if they could just let him play alone, I think that there's some real potential here. No Jared Allen, already ruled out. So I think Evan Mobley at $6,300 again. The problem with these large slates is, like, I'm going to have to build like 100 lineups to get exposure to all of these guys. But at least they're giving us power forward center eligibility for all of them. So you can put them in a util, a forward, a power forward, or a center spot and get all that exposure that you want. I love Evan Mobley here at $6,300.
Yeah, same. No, same. He has, and we'll, I'll try to pull it up as we move on. But he had really big numbers without, and not surprising, right? He's gonna probably be a long-term center in today's NBA. He had really good numbers without Jared Allen last year.
Yeah.
So, like, it's
monster.
It's one of those things.
Brooklyn against centers, right? Like we've talked. Those of you who are tuning in now, well, we might have to change some of it. We don't know what Mark Williams is going to be like at center for Charlotte, but we always attack Charlotte opposing centers. We always attack the Clippers with opposing centers here. The Thunder were a team that we like to attack opposing centers. We'll see what Chet's able to do. But Brooklyn was always a team that you would attack opposing centers with, even with Nick Claxton there. Like it really wasn't we're really shying away from that sort of matchup here. I think Mobley is in a really good spot here at that price point.
Yep. This is a really good position. Power forward is a really good position, this mid-tier. That's also why, like, I don't know what Wemby's ownership is going to be because the 7 guys below him are all, like, in kind of incredible spots.
Yeah. And again, I'm probably feeding into some of the hype here, too. But, it wouldn't shock me, given what we saw in the preseason and everything we think we know about Victor Wembanyama, if at $8,500 he goes for 70 fantasy points tonight.
Boy, dude, he is literally poor guy. I hope he lives up to it.
He has to, right? There's only been like 2 people that have ever lived up to the hype of a player that's coming into him. One is LeBron James, and like maybe Bryce Harper's the other one, who was on
probably
magazine at like 16 years old.
Yeah, I remember the batting practice home runs where he's hitting like 450 foot bombs.
He won an MVP. He's won a World Series. I'll say he lived up to the hype. Yep. LeBron James, they were showing his high school games on ESPN for crying out loud. Okay. Yep. Lived up to the hype here. I think that Wembanyama certainly has a huge
agreed.
Weight to bear here when it comes to, but I think he can do it. He's a monster. Anyways, so under 5K. You mentioned Keegan Murray 51 earlier. I think he's fine here.
Yep.
Anybody else that you're taking? Well, like, what are we doing with Memphis here? We have to talk Memphis. We didn't talk Jaren Jackson. Where's his price tag? Jaren Jackson is 66.
Yeah, dude. I'm saying it's
I know. So he's 66. That's a great spot. No Steven Adams, no Santi Aldama. They're gonna no John Morant.
No Brandon Clark.
It's gonna be Xavier Tillman starting at center with Kenneth Lofton rather, maybe as like the backup 5. Who's the backup 4? Who's the backup for power?
Probably either Roddy or LaRavia, yeah. But like if anyone saw, I mean, Jaren Jackson is a power forward. Like he cannot play center. He couldn't play center for Team USA. I think there's a reason why Steven Adams is back and why they started Tillman. He's not a good rebounder, really.
Yeah.
And
is Zion gonna follow him out like in 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's why like I'm not going there.
Okay.
Just because I don't.
They're at home though. Blocks and steals prop.
This is blocks and steals prop could be live.
That's at 2.5. We're hammering the over, folks.
This could be live. I mean, look at the 4.7 blocks and steals average at home last year.
It was, and they tried to tell us it wasn't a real thing. It was a real thing.
4.7 compared to 3.2 on the road. I mean, we're talking about a 1.5 blocks and steals more away or at home.
We have a line. We don't have a line. The underdog does not have a line for us here on the blocks and steals number. They got up at 4.5 3-pointers attempted though. So
yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
I like the 3-pointers attempt. 1.5 made, 4.5 attempted. So
yep.
So anyways, sidetrack. Now the guys I saw Santi Aldama out here. Any other value power forwards that maybe are on your radar?
I think power forward is like pretty bad in terms of value. I don't have necessarily anything. I'll say there's a couple maybe potential lineup notes. Like Jalen Johnson's going to play a bunch for Atlanta off the bench. I think he's going to be one of the first guys off the bench. We don't know what the Clippers are going to do at power forward. Terrence Mann's ruled out, and it seems like Batum, Covington, or Marcus Morris are going to be one of the 3. All 3 of those guys are sub 4K. Like if Rob Covington at 3,300 got a start, I would probably take a look, but there's not a lot of good power forward value for me.
Okay. It's a 3.5 point prop for blocks and steals for Jaren Jackson tomorrow. So just
as long as he doesn't foul out. As long as
let him again know that's where we're at with that prop there. All right, let's move on over to the center position here. Sabonis is at 10-3. Man was definitely an animal at times last year, and this is a spot where Walker Kessler is going to be the main man this season for Utah. We definitely like Walker Kessler, but Sabonis can just, he's Jokic light, for lack of a better comparison. Can give you triple doubles here. What are your thoughts, I guess, after Sabonis under 10K? Again, Wembanyama can play here. I don't know about Siakam at 10-1. Feels a little bit too tough for me if we don't know the minutes that he's going to play this year with the new coach and stuff like that that's going on. If he doesn't play 40, does he pay off 10-1? Does he pay off 10-1?
He's going to play He's going to play a lot.
Right. Is he going to pay off this matchup against Towns and Gobert?
No, it's a tough spot. It's a tough spot.
Bam, 79 feels pretty good against Detroit.
Yep.
I don't hate that spot. Mid tier, you've always been on Şengün, $6,700 going up against Wendell Carter and crew here in Orlando.
Yeah, Houston is really weird for me this year. I don't know what to make of them, because Jabari Smith looked really good in the preseason, and if Jabari Smith takes a leap and Şengün levels out, could we see lineups with Şengün off the floor and Jabari Smith playing center? We could. Ime Udoka is a good coach, and they have Amen Thompson coming off the bench now. Could he there's a lot of question marks, I think, with Şengün. He needs to get the fouls in order, be a little less turnover prone for a center, almost 2.5 or over 2.5 turnovers a game last year. But ultimately, it's a good spot. Wendell Carter is more known for his offensive prowess than his defense. So Şengün, 67. Dude, Vukovic, he had a really good preseason.
Yeah.
Another bowl that's just too cheap. Every bowl is too cheap on this slate. I know Chet's good, but dude, Vuce had back-to-back double-doubles against the Timberwolves, which was Rudy Gobert, and the I think the Raptors or something. Yeah. Maybe it was against Jokic, because I know he played against Denver.
He had a whole run of double doubles here. 320 all the way down to 38. He had a 7-game stretch of double doubles. So definitely a guy we like. We struggled with him at times last year because he would just disappear in certain matchups where we thought he would crush. But again, Chicago really is coming in underpriced. I'd say on a whole as a team, their big three. You have Levine at 68, Vucevic at 69, and DeRozan at 71. That's a pretty cheap stack there in this spot against OKC if you wanted to go there. I didn't mention Jalen Williams. He's a power forward for on the slate for OKC as well. A little pricey, but we are expecting him to kind of take a little bit of a step forward there. Do you like Ayton at 64? New team, new spot?
He's fine. I just don't know what the split's going to be with Rob. Especially with Rob Will back, maybe 25-23, best case 28-20, right? So I don't know what it's probably a stay away and see how that plays out.
No price discount on Lively here, $6,100.
That's just horrible. That's so stupid. He might not even start, dude. What are you doing?
I know. Jakob Poeltl, though, will start. $5,900. Probably a little worried about the Gobert matchup for him, but should be on the floor plenty. I do like Miles Turner at $5,900. That feels like a free price.
Yes.
Super cheap. Walker Kessler at 56. I'm a fan of as well. Do you play Zubac 54?
Maybe he had a good little preseason. Yeah. He's going to continue to start. That Miles Turner price was the one that stood out to me the most.
Yeah, Turner at 59 is crazy.
He had a career year. Defense and offense, he had a career year. Signed the big extension with them after all that trade talk, and then
gonna go up against Daniel Gafford, who's a foul machine.
Dude, and prime block scenario for Miles Turner. Gafford doesn't leave the paint. This is he is probably per dollar the best that I've seen. I like Mark Williams 53 as well. It's a little shout
there.
Yeah, sure. He's gonna start.
I want to see them commit to him. I'll certainly probably throw a lineup with him involved because I think sacking that game is kind of appealing to me. But they were screwy with his minutes at times last year.
I know Nick Richards. It's gonna be 20.
That's what I'm saying.
24, 24.
And you'd be kicking your head in. Gafford is 51 on the opposite side. Xavier Tillman should start 5K. Jaren Duran there is going to start for Detroit. Not that I like that spot against Miami. Anybody else value for center for you?
Yeah, Onyeka Ngakwu, I think, is probably the one guy. Yes, did he play less with Quinn Snyder last year? But he just signed a 4-year, $62 million deal. He had his best year, over a fantasy point per minute last year. And Clint Capella is going to be involved in a lot of trade talks this year. And if they fall out of contention, Ngannou is going to be starter before you know it. So I like $4,400, even if it's a timeshare, even if he's slightly behind, much better per dollar price than Clint Capella is for sure.
Sure. All right, let's build a lineup here for the folks at home, and we will be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time. I'm plugging in Wembanyama. You can't.
I knew it. I was going to say you just build with Wemby. I already know you're gonna.
You can't make me not do it. All right, let's go. Point guard.
Well, I would say Miles Turner at center.
Okay.
Right? If I feel like that was like probably
Turner at center. Point guard spot here. Let's see what some of our favorite value plays. We had Struss, Martin, Schroeder 53.
Schroeder 53 is good.
All right, go Schroeder at point guard. Which bowl do you want? Levine?
Probably. THT in the best game environment on the board. I mean,
Talon Horton Tucker, shooting guard 45. Give me guard, forward, utility 63. We had a couple of those power forward centers we liked here.
We did.
Zinger 72.
Yeah, I like the Zinger price. Dude, he's gonna be good. He's gonna average a lot of rebounds. This might be his first year averaging a double-double.
Let's see. Where's Pool's 81? What would 81 get us? 37. Did we have a super cheap $3,700 guy? I don't think.
No, Josh Green was 38. That was probably the cheapest that I saw.
Yeah, we just missed out there. All right, well let's move off of Zinger then, because there was another guy that we liked there. We like Poole. Forward.
There was cheaper right below him, like Chet.
Yeah, let's
64.
Let's get Chet.
We're going the Chet Wemby.
And then $4,400 here. What are we gonna go with for 44?
You like Quentin Grimes. Ngannou, yes.
Yeah, perfect. All right, guys. So there's an example lineup for everybody here. Again, we'll be back live at 5 o'clock Eastern time, updating you all the latest news and notes on this slate. We'll have the playbook out as well. If you haven't already, like and subscribe to the channel. Helps us out immensely. And we'll be back here every single day, breaking it down for you guys, getting you ready for your NBA DFS action. For James and John, we'll be back a little bit later on today. We will catch you then.